You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sedacca, and you're listening to the Going Solo Network, WGSN-DB, and the show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with Rosalind Sedacca. And every week we invite guests who have interesting and powerful stories to tell about the work they're doing related to divorce and protecting our families. And I'm very excited to introduce you today to my guest who has a very important story that we don't always get to address. And her name is Martha Davis Alexander. And Martha is a child of divorced parents. And even after 50 years, she was still battling depression, even though things were good. She was experiencing anxiety when traveling to see her father or her mother. She was feeling anxious at family celebrations, exhausted, and saying that although she had a wonderful life, there were huge chunks of times when she wasn't really happy because of the ripples from her parents' divorce that permeated her life in insidious ways, and that's Martha's own quote. So she became an attorney. She's an attorney and a certified fearless living coach and the founder of Through the Looking Glass with Martha. And Martha specializes in helping now adult children of a divorce take back their voice and their life. And she says one of her biggest achievements as an adult was breaking free of the emotional destruction of her parents' divorce. And she wants to help others do the same. So I'm just thrilled to introduce you to and welcome Martha.
Hi, Roz. It's fabulous to be here.
You have quite a story, and I know that you're not alone. There are just millions of people who are children of divorce over the past few decades especially, who are experiencing things similar to your own experiences, and sometimes they may feel they're the only ones, or they may poo-poo it and say, I'm too old to still be feeling this, and they're embarrassed or they're feeling intimidated to share their feelings with other people. So you are opening the door to allowing people to step forward and talk about this important topic. And I want to address as much as we can in the time that we have today. So let's dive in, shall we?
Absolutely.
So you talk about emotional destruction from your parents' divorce. Tell me more about what that means.
So when parents divorce and they're not emotionally mature, let's say, so they haven't talked to you, they haven't figured out how to do it in a way that is child-centered, which I think is so important. But if they haven't done that, and my parents divorced in 1968, and they did it all wrong. Mm-hmm. They were horrible. And what I found later in life, because I really thought I was over it, right? I mean, it's their divorce, and it's 50 years later, and whatever. But I realized that the survival skills that I learned as a child to cope with my parents' divorce went through into my adulthood. I became a chameleon. I wanted to be loved by both my parents. If my mom hated my dad, which she did and was very vocal about, then she hated half of who I was. I am 50% each of my parents. I carry traits of both proudly. And I had to hide that whenever I was with my mom, right? I had to hide the part of me that was my dad, or I felt I had to do that in order to be loved by my mom, because she was so vocal and so hostile about my dad. And then the same is true with my dad. I had to hide 50% of me when I was with my dad, because he really, really was hurt by my mom and really was very angry and resentful and hated her. And so I found myself becoming whatever I needed to be loved. Mm-hmm. And in my childhood, I didn't really find out who I was. So I spent I didn't find that out until the last year and a half, and I turned 60 this year, Rosalind. So I really spent all my time. I was someone different with my mom than I was with my dad, than I was with my dad and my stepmother, than I was with my brothers, and then I was someone I didn't know who to be when everyone was together. It was very, very anxiety-driven and really exhausting to change yourself depending upon who you are.
You make such an important point talking about that. And ironically, I am a child of parents who should have divorced and stayed together, and I had the same experience because I, too, had parents who hated one another and badmouthed one another, and I had to change who I was to be with each of them. And so the emotional scars are the same, even though I didn't have the same experience as you. Emotionally, it's very similar. And when anyone forces a child to have to change who they are to adapt to their parents' drama, it's hurting the children emotionally and psychologically. So I'm so glad you bring this up and talk about how it felt to be put in that terrible position. And I know you often talk about the superpowers of being a child of divorce, and I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about what you mean.
So the superpowers of a child of, let's even say, because I know you share this as well, of emotionally immature parents, right? Parents who don't keep their stuff, their adult stuff as adult stuff. And one of them is I can go into any room and read the energy where conflicts lay, where I know whether I can show up full on or whether I need to hang back and let something play out first. And that comes from needing to people please and needing to know, right, where it is. It's a survival skill.
Yeah.
And it's how I entered every single family gathering. The first thought when I used to get together with family was survival. How do I survive this Christmas? How do I survive this Thanksgiving? How do I survive my wedding, my brother's wedding, right? It is the first thought to all milestones in my life and my brother's life was how do we survive? How do we navigate the tension, the anger, the angst? How do we get through all of that? Yeah. And how do we make sure that our parents stay separated so that there is no issues, right? And we're all exhausted all the time.
Exhausted is right. And I just want to bring out, because as founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, I talk to parents a lot about this. What happens is that as children, we are forced to become little adults. For you to be thinking about survival and going to a holiday celebration, not as a child to have fun, but to see how you're going to behave, where you're going to stand, what you're going to say, where your parents are, keeping guard, taking care of all of that. You've become a little adult. You're immediately robbed of your childhood innocence and are caught up being a grown adult no matter what age you are. And that, of course, is psychologically so damaging and painful for children. Isn't that the case?
Oh, it's horrible. And it leaves me, as when you're a child, right, that's the time when you play with other kids, when you start negotiating, learning how to be social, you're learning who you are, you're learning how you want to show up, not necessarily in those terms. Oh, sorry, when you're a kid.
That's
but that
okay.
is exactly that is exactly what you're doing, right? That you're learning how to become a person. And when you spend all your time navigating your parents' divorce and their emotions and supporting them, you have absolutely no time to be a kid. Yes. And to do the things that other kids do.
You were robbed.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
One of the most important questions I want to make sure I get to ask you is, how did you overcome the emotional destruction from your parents' divorce?
The first step is building confidence, taking risks, getting outside my comfort zone, and really building confidence in myself and my abilities. You know, it's funny, I went to law school and graduated. One of the worst experiences of my life, by the way. Only graduation ceremony I went to. If I could undo it and not go, I would. And because of my parents. And I never really viewed that as an accomplishment, ever. I mean, my diploma was packed some way away in the attic because I didn't have that confidence or that sense of self, right? No matter what I did, it wasn't really an achievement. So taking the time, building confidence, taking the time to discover who I am, being open to becoming aware of myself, my behaviors, my reactions, what does it really look like? What does it mean? Tracing the behaviors back so I can understand, what is this part of? Where did I get this? Is this a survival skill? Is it a habit? What is it? And then deciding whether that pattern of behavior, reaction, whatever, still serves me in my life right now. And if it doesn't serve me, deciding what would serve me, what I want that mindset to be, how I want to show up now in my life, and what are the steps I need to take to show up that way, to develop the new mindset and new patterns. And then, you know, frankly, forgiving myself and my parents, right?
Yes.
I stayed in it, and part of staying in that mindset is the societal taboo on talking about your parents' divorce because, you know, children are resilient, Rosalind, and we're not supposed to still have lasting, right? It isn't talked about. Society has said, oh, you know, your parents got a divorce, now get over it, right? And the truth is that doesn't happen. So forgiving myself and allowing myself the grace to grieve my childhood, the grace to forgive my parents. And when I say forgive my parents, Rosalind, it doesn't mean I confronted my parents and said, you know, you sucked and this is what you did. This is how you did it. And, you know, you should have done it better. It means that in myself, I forgave. I don't have to talk to anyone else in order to forgive and let go of what's inside of me. I can forgive them without even having a conversation with them. It is all about letting go of what I've held on to.
I agree.
And the next step is being willing to practice and continually practice, being aware, being gentle with myself, finding where, you know, those crevices, where that stuff is, and knowing that life is a journey. And this is part of my journey, right? This whole thing was part of my journey. It brought me to this place where I can help others, where I can say, wow, you know what? We got a raw deal. Let's talk about it. Let's bring it to light so that other parents don't do the same thing, right? And let me help you get through those things. There's no shame in it. There's no resentment. For me, it's just being joyful in the life that I have and who I have become.
Wow. You express it so well, and your message is invigorating as well as passionate, because you've gone through so much emotionally, and at the same time you've learned so much and have a great deal to share with other people. I'm very impressed with what you're telling us, and I'm also amazed at how similar our journeys were, even though the physical experiences were different. The emotional impact was so similar, and I too had to reach those same points in my life. So I thank you. I especially want to remind our listeners that those of you who are anticipating divorce, going through divorce, or having had a divorce and have children, this is such an important message to listen to, because what Martha is talking about will give you insights as to what not do.
things to avoid, behaviors to avoid, so your children don't have to go through that, because they don't. You can create a child-centered divorce for your children, being mindful of all of these pitfalls, and your kids will thank you when they're grown adults because they didn't have to go through the emotional, traumatic experiences that we had when they're grown. So we're going to stop for just a moment and take a quick break. And this is Rosalind Sedacca with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network.
Hello, I'm Cece Schatz, and I'd like to welcome you to Going Solo Network, #1 complete singles connection. We strive to connect singles in a positive and fun way. Together, singles will begin to make new and lasting friendships, learn more about themselves, and embrace our new today lifestyle of going solo. Being single doesn't mean you have to be alone, and you can live a full, fun life, bringing your vibration to a higher level of attraction. Going Solo Network is an interactive social support singles community with several platforms helping singles connect with other like-minded individuals. We cover things like relationship loss, divorce recovery, embracing being single, single parenting, restructuring relationships, relationship building, transition into dating, and dating itself, solo in business, and going solo travelers. Be sure to join our private and exclusive fun interactive websites designed for singles today who want to begin to embrace living and enjoying the space they're in. Together we will learn to open our hearts, our minds. We will begin to share and connect with others while exploring our personal life goals as we begin to make a place in our new life. We will start to move forward in going solo to actually living our best lives. Going solo doesn't mean you have to be alone. Today, together, let's begin changing your life. Today, join the singles at Going Solo Network and start to live your new life. I'll see you there on GoingSoloNetwork.com.
And we're back. This is Rosalind Sedacca on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network, with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. And we are talking to Martha Davis Alexander, who is a coach for adult children of divorce, and she has some wonderful messages. I wanted to make sure I got a chance to ask you about Through the Looking Glass with Martha. Tell me about that.
So Through the Looking Glass with Martha is all about breaking the taboos on talking about our parents' divorce. Many of us don't want to do it because it hurts our parents' feelings. Well, it is so much better to stand up and say, how did I get through the divorce, right? And how is it still impacting my life? And the only way to become aware of those things is to actually talk about it. You don't have to talk to your parents about it. And becoming aware of how it impacts your life is really important. So if for example, you tend to cancel your plans a lot, right? That was a big one for me. I canceled a lot of my plans, air travel. And if you do that, and you know that you do that, become aware of that and when it strikes, and being able to trace it back, right? What does it go to? For me, that went back to having to change, right, from one parent to the other than visitation, and the need to metamorphose into a completely different person and then metamorphose back. And it is exhausting, exhausting work. And even my 17-year-old daughter was like, yeah, you've always done that. I tried to cancel my honeymoon. And it's not because I didn't want to go. It's because in my mind, right, my survival mode said, that is a lot of work, and we really don't want to do that, and we don't know who Greg wants, and we don't know how to change for that. So let's just not do it. It would be so much easier if we just stayed home. So there are lots of things to become aware of. Society says children are resistant and wants that to be true to such a strong degree that we don't really even look any farther. And so we just assume it's something that we did or it's something wrong with us as an adult. And it's not. There is nothing wrong with any of us. We have survival skills that follow us into adulthood. And those can be changed if you become aware of them. It's funny, if you research books, services, programs, and or groups for now adult children of divorce, they're few and far between.
Yes.
I've read them all. And some are good, some are great, and none of them tell you what to do to how you can change, right? How you can get beyond that and remove the emotional destruction. So Through the Looking Glass with Martha is all about exploring that, right? Through the Looking Glass is the old Alice in Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole and all the adventures she has. I look at those adventures as steps in the process of learning and discovering about yourself. And so I invite people to dive down into that rabbit hole with me, and let's look at it. Let's see. Let's do some self-discovery and see about that. It is, for me, all about making sure that we can find those survival skills, our triggers, and the things that have followed us and haunted us for all of our life, and that we can reclaim our life and break free of that emotional destruction, that we can not just survive but thrive in our lives.
Got it. And it's never too late to do that, right?
No, I'll be 60 in August, and I did it within the last 2 years.
That's wonderful. Martha, you need to tell us how people can find you and your services.
So my website is www.throughtheLookingGlassWithMartha.com. My phone number is area code 805-422-6865. And my email is marthadalexander@gmail.com. I offer a free 60-minute discovery session to see if I can help serve you.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful opportunity for people to take advantage of. And I am so glad we had the chance to talk to you about this. Can you leave our listeners with a takeaway message?
Absolutely. Rosalind, I want to thank you for having me on and for your dedicated to child-centered divorce. It is so important. There are so many walking wounded out there, and your ability and your desire to teach parents who get divorced to be child-centered is phenomenal. It is so important to the mental health of our future generations, because divorce, if not done child-centered, is generational. It's not just me. It's my kids who learn the same skills. It's their kids. It is passed down from generation to generation. And if you don't want to do it, if a parent doesn't want to do it for their kids, do it for your grandkids, do it for your great-grandkids. It is so very important. So if you're going to get divorced, fine, great. I have no pony in that race. But please, please, please talk to Rosalind and do it in a way that does not damage your children. It is totally within your power, whether your kids have the remnants that I had.
Wow, that's a powerful message. I thank you so much for your kind words of support for the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and appreciate the work you are doing, and will be happy to refer clients, because there are so few people doing what you are doing, reaching out to adults who are wounded and haven't found a way of getting supported and feeling supported. And this makes all the difference, to know you're not alone, and to know that there are strategies to work through this and reach a place where you are finally at peace and surrendering that burden and that load of stress that so many people have been carrying through their lives. So thank you, Martha Davis Alexander. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And for all of our listeners, I encourage you to visit the Child-Centered Divorce Network at childcentereddivorce.com, We have a free ebook for you right on the home page on post-divorce parenting, success strategies for getting it right. And we talk about many of the things that you want to do, the things you want to avoid, so that you're giving your children the best possible opportunity for a wonderful future ahead, as Martha was talking about. So thank you again, Martha.
Thank you, Rosalind. I really appreciate your time and
we
everything
hope
that you do.
Thank you. And I hope all of you will be joining us again next time for Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with Rosalind Sedacca. Thank you.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.